Trump and I wrote 2 books together because we're concerned about the lack of financial education in our school systems. So you think about the source of it. If there's no financial education in our school systems, then the people running our government are idiots. People say, well, the Federal Reserve Bank has either 400 or 4,000 PhDs. My mind goes, that's 4,000 or 4,000, like my poor dads. They're academic geniuses who know jack about money, and they're killing us. So when I see that, and then you have my generation was the first baby boom generation, was the first generation without a defined benefit pension plan. Defined benefit was like, when my father generation, they worked for Ford or General Motors, and they had a pension for life. But in 1974, that changed. So they shifted to the 401k and IRA, RRSP in Canada, 401k in Japan. So the boomer generation is kind of hanging out there on a string right now, and now we're starting to retire. So that was 74 to now, and how many years that is. But the boomer generation had the easiest time in all history. The economy boomed. But now it's about to shift, and I'm afraid the boomer generation might be, out of luck. I don't know what's going to happen, but something has to happen. That old saying is, how'd you go bankrupt? Slowly and then fast? Well, the speed's about to go fast right now, all over the world. You look at Japan. When I was a kid, they were the miracle of Japan. Well, now their yen is worth nothing. Japanese aren't the brightest when it comes to money. I'm Japanese. I say that. 4th generation American Japanese. They print more money than we do. So, that's what I'm saying. So if our school systems teach us nothing about money, then we have idiots running the show. My poor dad was the head of education for the state of Hawaii, PhD, did studies at Stanford, Northwestern, University of Chicago. He was poor as a church mouse, but he held up his PhD. I said, yeah, that and $25 will buy you a cup of coffee. What good is a PhD? So many people get so attached to a stupid piece of paper. So my rich dad was my best friend's father, never had an education. And he always said, my banker has never asked me for my report card yet. So what does your banker want to see? So these idiot left-wing academic types go, I went to Stanford, and my banker wants to see my financial statement. My poor dad had no idea what a financial statement is. Most academics have no idea. They don't have financial statements. But to be a capitalist, I run on my financial statement, because 1971, Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard, and the U.S. dollar became debt. So today, if we stop borrowing money, the economy collapses because it's debt. And Dave Ramsey is kind of a friend of mine, but we argue with different points of view. He says live debt-free. I said, if we live debt-free, the economy would collapse. Oh, no, it wouldn't, does it? Well, if you study macroeconomics, money is created by borrowing money, not working for it anymore. So if you can understand that macro concept, and then today America is now printing, this is 2024, we just started printing $1 trillion every 90 days to keep this economy floating. Now, when they stop, that's like Noah's Ark going down, on top of the mountain. All coins have 3 sides, heads, tails, and the edge. So you have Republicans, Democrat, but I stand on the edge, look at both sides. And you have right and left and all this stuff. So when I look at money, you have to see what's invisible. You have to see the other side. And so when the 2008 market hit, like I said, money was debt. What the banks were doing was they were borrowing money and then packaging debt as an asset so they could borrow more money. They're called derivatives. And the average American, since they're financially illiterate, they don't speak the language of money. When I speak a derivative, that's like if you get an orange, you cut it, you squeeze it. The orange juice is a derivative of the orange. So what a derivative is in 2008 was a derivative of debt made into bigger debt. So the debt accelerated. So Warren Buffett is called derivatives, weapons of mass financial destruction. So I'm sitting there like this, watching it. 2008 comes, it blew. Oh, thank you, God. Because when you see the other side, I made more money in the crash than I did when it was going up. So the average person, because they don't have financial literacy, definition of words, and they're taught to just work for money, they don't see the other side. They cannot see what they cannot see. So when the markets crashed in 2008, I borrowed $300 million. And I bought the best real estate in the world for pennies on a dollar. That's how you get rich. Not by working hard and putting in a stupid 401k full of stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and ETFs. Also for the peasants. But that's what they tell the kids. Go to school, get a job, work hard, and put your money in a 401k or an IRA full of stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs. I don't touch that garbage. It's trash. That's the other side. So for there to be an asset, there has to be a liability by definition. If you understand that one, you'll say, okay, so here's the asset. What's the liability? I wouldn't touch a mutual fund. That's toxic. But the liability is the Black Rocks or the fund managers who package that stuff. All coins have three sides. I'm on the other side. I package it. I package that debt. And that's how I make my money. So I know what those guys who are like BlackRock and all these guys, the mutual fund, the Vanguard, they're just packaging garbage and selling it. I wouldn't touch it. Well, you better study. A village idiot and their money are soon gone. They all disappear. If you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, it's the #1 book in the world for 27 years. And I flunked out of school because I can't write. And the publishers of New York, like Simon & Schuster, they all turned Rich Dad, Poor Dad down. They said, because they're like my poor dad. These academics are the worst people on planet Earth because they have this stupid piece of paper. You're smarter than that guy over there. I used to say, my poor dad, it's a piece of paper. Show me your financials. Oh, I got my PhD. If you can understand the insanity of that somebody actually thinking their PhD makes them smarter than the village idiot out there. That's why Trump and I are good friends, because we sit there and laugh and chuckle. When he was debating Hillary, when Hillary says, he doesn't pay any taxes, and Trump says, that means I'm smart. I don't pay taxes. Only idiots pay taxes. My poor dad hung on to his PhD. I'm going, you're broke, you're working hard, you pay taxes, and you're saving dollars, and they're printing dollars. But I have a PhD. My other friend has a real estate license. He says, I have a real estate license. You don't. I said, yeah, because I don't want. They think a lousy piece of paper like the dollar bill is important. Well, it's a piece of paper. It's a derivative. So in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I said there's 3 main rules. The rich don't work for money. What I do as a capitalist is I create assets. So I take debt, all this, I assemble, I put a piece of real estate together or business, or like right now I'm up in northern Canada buying lithium fields. We're going to crush lithium for batteries, EV batteries. So we create assets. So that asset pays money. So every month, I have 1,600 rental units. Every month, 1,600 people who probably went to school pay me rent. God bless them. And guess what? Because they're paying me and my properties are 100% debt, I pay no taxes. That's why Trump says I'm smart. But the average person says, well, I pay more taxes than you. I said, well, you're an idiot. If you understand tax law, America was founded as a tax revolt. 1773 was a thing called the Boston Tea Party. We don't want to pay taxes. But if you read Karl Marx in his book, The Communist Manifesto, taxes are essential for the spread of communism. My poor dad was also head of the labor union. What did Marx say about labor unions? Workers of the world unite. I understand this stuff. That's literacy, So anyway, rich don't work for money. I create assets. We don't save money, and your house is not an asset. So the average poor person, went to college like my dad, PhDs. Go to school, get a job, work hard, save money, get out of debt, and you buy a house because your house is your biggest asset. That is the dark side of the coin, but it's the light side for the idiots. They're doing what they think is smart. And the guys on my side, like Trump's side, going, I wouldn't do that. But you can't tell them that because they got this stupid piece of paper. It says, you're smart. My dad says, I'm smarter than your rich dad. I said, yeah, you're also broke. If you read financials, that's what your banker wants to see. Your banker wants to see your financial, not your GPA, not your report card, not your college degree. They want to see assets, liabilities, and cash flow. So there's 3 basic parts to a financial statement: income statement, balance sheet, statement of cash flow. You can teach a monkey that, but our schools don't teach that because they're taught by Marxists. There's 5 federal academies: West Point, Naval Academy, Air Force, Coast Guard, Kings Point. I went to Kings Point in New York. The first book we're required to read is the Communist Manifesto. In 1965, I'm reading the Communist Manifesto going, because it was economics. That's real economics, not that bullshit they teach you in school. Econ 101 and econ. No, it's communism versus capitalism. Adam Smith versus Karl Marx. It's basic, but our academics are idiots. They got this piece of stupid paper that says you got a PhD and going, good, pay me my rent, I'll be happy. I'm not saying being a Marxist is bad, because my economics teacher was a West Point graduate, U.S. military school. He flew B-17s in World War II, got shot down, captured, escaped, all that stuff. And he says, economics is like a religion. So you could be Catholic, you could be Hindu, you could be Jewish, could be Buddhist. And he says, some Marxists believe in this religion, capitalists believe in this religion. So I'm reading the Communist Manifesto in 1965. My family are Marxists. And my dad headed the teachers union. Can you imagine that? And that's what Marx said, labor workers of the world unite, form unions. And so I worked for my rich dad one time during a union, because my rich dad was the exact opposite of my poor dad. Rich dad was a capitalist, and his workers went on strike. So rich dad called me up, and he says, come help us out. So I went down to his hotels. He owned hotels. And I'm working behind the desk. So I'm out there for like 3 or 4 days because, there's no workers. Workers are on strike and all this stuff. They were voting for unionism. That's what the workers were on strike for. I got home, and my poor dad said, where have you been? I said, I called home every day. He said, I know, but where have you been? I said, I was working. He says, you're a scab. You broke the union lines. It was the end of my relationship with my dad. He says, you're a scab. I went, but Dad, I was just helping this guy out. No, you should have let those guys strike against him. Number one rule of Marxism, abolition of private property. But how you get there is that, workers of the world unite, go up against them, strike, take their money. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but that was my father. That was a challenge. The first asset was my challenge was I couldn't pay anything for it. I had to get it for free. So I had to use debt to buy it. So my rich dad was a great guy. He says, so you go buy your first piece of real estate in Hawaii. In Hawaii, real estate's expensive. So I bought a 1-bedroom, 1-bath condo on the beach. And I bought it with my credit card, 100% debt financing. That's the secret to success. When does a village idiot buy real estate? Prices are going up. I'd better jump in. It's called FOMO, fear of missing out. The village idiots are running in there. It's like right now, they're all running into Bitcoin and stuff like this. The stock market today, all-time highs. Idiots are just jumping in like lemmings going to die. The human body is made up of 4 different types. You have the mind, you have the body. So there's mental intelligence, physical intelligence, there's spiritual intelligence, and emotional intelligence, EQ. And the average person has no EQ, very low spiritual intelligence. The reason I know that is I was a Marine, went to Vietnam twice. When you see your friends dying, it's really, really imperative. You remain stoic, calm, and you keep killing the other guy. That's what we do. And then when I came back from Vietnam the second time in 72, I got hit by a rotten egg and spit on by all these hippies from Woodstock. And today I see them in politics today. Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, they're all those hippies out there spitting on me. I'm only kidding. You look at a guy like Tiger Woods. He's got mental, emotional, physical, spiritual lined up. That putt, let's say he's putting 10 feet to win $1 million. It's mental, spiritual. It's going to... And that's why Maria Montessori school system says, what the hand does, the mind remembers. It's physical intelligence that's more important than mental intelligence. So you have so many people that say, but what if I make a mistake? I said, you'll get smarter. A baby doesn't learn to walk unless it falls down. But let's say the baby stands up, falls down, teacher goes, you stupid kid, you can't walk. They'll never walk. So when I meet people who are the academic types, that piece of paper that means nothing, most of them are so terrified of making mistakes. I say, what you do is so risky. Well, risk involves mental, emotional, spiritual, physical. My license plate on my car, I have a V12 Bentley, and I do have an EV also. The V12 says 1.9 GPA. When you study money, every time you print money, 2 things happen. The rich get richer, poor middle class get poorer. And the reason for that is when you print money, so-called assets of value go up, but also expenses for food and things go up. When you see homelessness increasing, the more we print money, more homelessness, because they can't afford the house. The price of housing went up, but inflation went up. So it's a double-edged sword. If you're making less than $100,000 a year, how do you afford a house? Because you go to the supermarket and your cash is sucked out of there on the expense column. But that's why there's no financial education in our schools. They don't have to teach you that stuff. That's the problem. And another thing I was taught at the academy, because of ring knockers, you watch what a person does, not what they say. So this guy Biden, his first act was to cut the Keystone XL pipeline. And I went to Kings Point, okay? I'm an oil man. My first job was with Standard Oil. I understand oil. When he cut the pipeline, I own oil wells. And the moment he cut the pipeline that day, oil went under Trump. I was selling oil for $30 a barrel. Next day was $130. Trump cut the prices down. And so at $130, I'm making money hand over fist, but I knew exactly what he was doing because that's what Marxist guys did. By raising the cost of living or inflation, you now have 2 classes. So what Biden did was he created another class called the upper middle class became poor. He did it intentionally. I watched that going, God, And then, so you notice what's happened, and then you see homelessness increase and all this stuff. It's intentional. And that's what Trump was fighting, the deep state or the dark side, or whatever he was fighting. So when you see that stuff, I go, wow. His second step was open the border. So Trump was putting a wall up so we had some protection. Biden took it down. Watch what a person does, not what they say. But people can't hear what Biden's doing because they hate Trump so much. I grew up in Hawaii. My father's head of education. On one side of the street is a kids' elementary school for labor union kids. It was called Union School. So the kids that went there were union members. Their fathers were either Portuguese, Filipino, Chinese, Korean, like that. Directly, less than 20 yards across the street was Riverside School, the school for the rich kids. So their fathers owned the plantations that the union kids worked for. I talk about a cycle farm. I'm going, so for some reason, my father didn't cheat, but I got into the rich kids' school. So I'm sitting there for the first time, 9 years old, going, how come they're poor and we're rich? What's the difference? That was the question. So then I'm in Sunday school. I'm sitting like this, and the teacher says, why were the 3 wise men wise? I raised my hand and said, she goes, why? Because they were rich. I said, why do you think they're rich? I said, gold, frankincense, myrrh, that costs money. And she goes, how do you know that? I said, well, I study money. I do study money. And she goes, that didn't make them rich. I said, well, what did? And then she said the magic words. They sought the best teacher. And I went, so my job as a kid is to seek the best teacher? She goes, yes, seek your teachers. And YouTube and what you guys are doing, you're giving the world access to millions of teachers. So I think YouTube's good and bad to it, but seek out the best teachers.